Hey, and welcome to this video about localizing OpenCRVS. In this video, myself, Riku, and Euan, my colleague, will be taking you the process of customizing the text content of OpenCRVS. And by text content, I mean all of the content, all the text that you see in the application. Everything you see here, all the labels for everything can be changed to have different words, different terminology, the ones that are in use in your country. And this applies to all languages as well. So I can change the language of the application to be French, and these can now also be changed. And you can add languages, you can remove languages, and so on. In the SRC translations directory, we find 3 different files. So each of these corresponds to a specific part of the application. Client being the registration client that you see here. So the application where you do most of the functional processes. Then you might have seen a login CSV file as well. So this is the login section of the application, including the journeys for resetting a password, for instance. And then lastly, there is one for the notifications we send from the application. Inside of all of these CSVs, there is a lot of text. You can edit this CSV file either by using a text editor like VS Code, such that I'm using here, or alternatively, you can use a spreadsheet application like Microsoft Excel or Numbers. So even now I could go ahead and open up one of the files in Numbers like so, and I could start editing the file, start editing the localizations through here as well. But my preferred option is of course the text editor, VS Code. Now, in this file and in the Excel sheet, you see that there are different columns. The first one being the ID. This is the ID that OpenCRVS uses for searching the content from this file. So this ID is something that you should never change. Then there's description for this specific translation item. So in this advanced search.accordion.hide item, there's a description that says that this is a label for the hide button when an accordion is closed. And this is useful for whomever is translating the application, just so that they can understand where exactly this specific language item is. And then you have 2 other columns, N, so English, and French, and then you see these values here. You could add another language by adding a new column, so that's most likely easiest to be done in a spreadsheet software. So if I open this up again in the Numbers app, in here I could just go ahead and add a new column and the language code that I want to be using. And this language code needs to be the 2-character ISO specified code for the language. More about this you can find in the documentation page. So if I would want this to be Finnish now, I could use FI. And it needs to be lowercase. And now I could start adding language items for my native language, Finnish. OpenCRVS heavily relies on a library, Format.js, which uses a standardized way for defining these language items. So if you are submitting your translations to a translator, for instance, they should be familiar with the syntax.
So you can change all these texts here appropriately. And probably one of the things you're going to do first of all is change our default country name. So the best thing to do in that regard is just search for the word Varajaland and replace it with the name of your country. For example, Ethiopia. So if I just start replacing these, this one, countries FAR, this is the fake country appearing as an option in our selects for the addresses. Now we have a line in our core product which will ignore this, so you won't see it. But if you wanted to, you could just delete that. Okay, so that's me replaced all instances of the word Varajaland in my client JSON. So I'm going to do the same thing in my login app. Here we go. And the next thing I'm going to do is I want to change the names of my address hierarchy. So if I look at the form, you can see the address hierarchy for our fake country has 2 levels. The first select is country, which is defaulted to our fake country. Then we can see the province, which is the top level administrative area. In Fire, this would be the state. So the constant is state, but we're using the label province. Then we have district, and that's the label we have in Fire as well. So that's just district. And then we have potentially 3 other customizable location levels. Now we know that we're configuring, in this case, we're configuring Ethiopia, and that will have 3 levels. So I want to check what are the actual real labels for these subdivisions in Ethiopia. And I found out that they are regions, zones, and woredas. So I need to go into my client JSON and look for the label for the second, after the country level administrative area. And I need to search for form.field.label.state. And I can find the word province. You could always just look at the UI and search for whatever word you want to find and replace it. But I can see it's called province. So I want to change this word province to be region. So I'm going to do a search for province, and wherever I see it, I'm going to replace it with the word region. There we go. And I'm going to search for the word district, which is the second level, and I'm going to replace it with the word zone. Now I'm not going to change the IDs for anything, it's just the text that I want to change. The IDs should always be the same. And I'm going to leave the international district the way it is. Oh. Okay, so the third level is Woreda. Now you can see I don't have a third level in my fake country, but we've enabled that in our when we were importing our admin levels, our administrative CSV. So if I search for location level 3, you can see here are the form labels for your extra up to 5 levels that you can have. So I'm only going to use location level 3, and I'm going to call that Woreda. So now I have the possibility that the text content for the administrative structure will adapt when I run OpenCRVS. So now you need to edit the text content for the notifications. These are the messages which will be sent to informants and staff if you have chosen SMS as the method of communication. So you can edit all of the messages here. You can see that they use handlebar syntax in order to substitute some dynamic data. And actually I should mention that similar syntax is in use in the client in many different places. You can see sometimes that syntax can get quite complicated. So how do you understand this syntax and how to localize it? Well, you need to refer to the format.js documentation. So this is a very common syntax in localization, where basically it may be possible to entirely restructure a sentence for different languages and different grammar. So you can see, for example, here's an example using the other and select syntax, where the variable gender is going to come in, and the text will select either male, will select he for male, she for female, or they for other, will respond shortly. So you may often see this kind of logic in the language files, and it's really a syntax which a translator should be relatively familiar with. But if not, you can refer to these format.js docs in order to understand it. It's so that you can do things like formatting long sentences with lots of dynamic data, or perhaps date times in different formats, etc. So there's not too many occurrences of this kind of logic, but there are a few. So it's worthwhile referring to the format.js docs. So anyway, the notifications JSON contains all of your SMS messages. So you may not be using them, but it's worthwhile keeping this up to date regardless. And then you want to edit your emails. So the emails are in a different folder. So they are in the source API notification email templates folder. So in that folder you can see an index file. So open the index file, and you will see, if you scroll down, some logic around the email templates that can be sent, and you need to change the copy for the subject line. So this is the subjects line for the emails. So these need to be changed if you want. Now we only do emails in one language. So you can do SMS in multiple languages, but currently emails only get sent in one language. So that's a backlog item for us to be able to make our emails multilingual, but currently they are the same email goes out to everybody. So you could have two different languages in the same email if you wanted to. That you could have it multilingual that way quite easily. So in this index file, you can change the subject line. And then if you look at any of the templates themselves, so in the folder for each event, birth, death, marriage, other is generally the staff emails, you can see HTML email content, and you can change all the text here as you like. You can see again, handlebars are used to substitute dynamic data. So this is where you edit email content. So that's really all you need to know about how to change the text in OpenCRVS. You have those format.js files, client.json, login.json, and you have these email templates plus the SMS templates. Thank you.